When he's not acting, he's producing. When he's not doing that, he's directing. Who is this Renaissance man? Here's a clue. His famous black leather jacket has been in the Smithsonian Institution since 1980. A gifted entertainer who has given all of us countless happy days. Henry Winkler is our guest tonight. And then later on, a man who was an FBI agent specializing in tracking down serial killers when he wrote a book about the agency which caused him to be investigated. Now his second book is out, written with the authenticity only an FBI insider can have. Author and former FBI agent Paul Lindsay will join us, all coming straight up on Straightforward. Credits as a producer or director of features and television include the series MacGyver and Sightings, television movie A Smoky Mountain Christmas, theatrical film The Sure Thing, and Cop and a Half. This guy does it all. Next time you buy popcorn in your local theater, check the guy behind the counter. He sometimes does that too. He's starring in a CBS movie for television. A Child is Missing. Henry Winkler is here, and he's here to return a favor.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm very happy to be here.
I'm happy to see you. You know, I have always been a big fan.
Thank you.
And your wife called me once and said, could I help with a charity? What was that charity?
What we do in LA is we graduate 100 children out of the foster care. You know, they're not allowed to earn money, and they have literally nothing when they graduate. We give them scholarships to higher education. My wife heard that the president at the time was George Bush, was going to be in town, and realized that these children were part of the 1,000 points of light that he always talked about. For 48 hours, she tracked you down, called you incessantly, consistently, and you literally changed the president's route, the president's entire ending of his day in order to get the president to the airport. We bused the children to the airport, and these kids from the inner city met the President of the United States because of you. Well,
your wife was very persuasive, and obviously I knew you, but when she told me about the program, I thought it was very interesting. And you know what's interesting about that? I had to get the Secret Service changed because the route was different. We had to get them moved out to the airplane and everything. And I kept running into, gee, we can't do that, we're on a tight schedule, everything else. So finally I called the president. I never told your wife this, but I called President Bush, and I said, look, there are a bunch of inner city kids. They want to meet you. This is be an important event in their life. He said, you don't have to tell me anymore. Fine, get it done. Let's do it. And so once the president says that, you're home free. So,
yeah, right.
You know, so it was really President Bush who said, I'd love to meet him. You know how, I'd love to meet him. Get him out there. That'd be great. He'd have gone over to your house to see him. I mean, that was, I mean, you know, you didn't ask for that.
Could we call him now?
You can call him. He'd come over, you know. I mean, he's a good guy. Well, listen, it's really nice to see you. Tell me about the new CBS movie. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I literally play a mountain man. And you know, on paper, it looked great. And all of a sudden, I'm on Mount Seymour in Vancouver in the middle of a blizzard. And I'm running after the camera. They put the cameraman on one of those snowmobiles, and I have to run with it, carrying a rifle through the snow. And I'm thinking to myself, what exactly am I doing here?
This read better than it feels.
Oh. But it turned out to be a very emotional movie. My character had a family, lost his family in a house fire. I couldn't save them. I became a recluse. I find a child who is buried and kidnapped in the woods, and I am able to save this child because I was not able to save my own.
And so, did you save this child or keep him, or how does that work out?
I'm able to return him to his mom.
Wow. We've got a clip from this new CBS film. Let's take a look at it. Henry Winkler.
Right, we're going home now, right? When we go through the woods, we have to be as quiet
as a deer, so no one hears us. Mister, it's that button again. Can you help me?
Bye, Daddy. See you. Come back soon. Okay, Dad? Miss ya. See you. Come back soon.
Mister, I really gotta go now.
What? Yeah.
Woo. Woo. You know, it's so funny because people have seen you do comedy for so long.
Right.
You're a hell of a dramatic actor.
Thank you.
That is really a moving piece.
Thanks. It's, I mean, it turned out to be a wonderful movie, and I was surrounded with wonderful actors, Dick Dysart and Miss Downey, who is on Touched by an Angel, as a matter of fact.
Did you grow that beard, or did they put
No,
you on makeup?
I grew that beard.
You did?
I did, and then it just caught me by surprise. The color was just...
Yeah, it comes in white. No,
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it couldn't be mine. It must have been somebody else's face.
You know what's interesting? You're known for comedy. Children are good at comedy, aren't they? They
Yeah.
really are. You help these inner city kids. You're doing a film about kids. There's a child in the Fonz. There's a
Right.
child in some of the characters you played.
That's right.
What is that fascination with childhood in you? What is it?
That's a good question. You know, when I was growing up, I had very little self-esteem. I had very low self-esteem. I was dyslexic. I still am dyslexic. I can't spell math. So I did very poorly in school. And it was so difficult to negotiate that when you're younger. You're told you're stupid. You're told you're not living up to your potential. And I think that when I grew up and I was able to identify with children and children to identify with me, I realized that maybe I can do something to help them negotiate that complicated process make it a little easier.
Do we all have a child in us, and most of us shut it down? I've been told that to be a good actor, you've really got to bring the child back in
You
you.
must be childlike, not necessarily childish.
Explain that.
I think there is a difference. I think that you can have that impish side of you. You can have that childlike amazement for the world. An actor merely is an interpreter of not only somebody else's words, but of what our life is like. I mean, that's our job, really.
Right.
And it's a job that's 5,000 years old, actually. But you have to keep that wonder, you know, that in you. And what happens, or at least in this country, we get so serious about the bottom line, about the profit, you know? Yeah. I think that profit in this country has replaced the population and the joy of the process of what we do.
Do you feel that, do you have kids?
I do. I have three. I have three
All right.
children.
Do you feel that kids today, I wonder what's going to happen. Where I started this question was, after the turn of the century, we're in the 21st century.
Yeah.
2020, the year 2020.
Right.
What's this country going to be like for kids? Where do you think we're going?
You know, I think about that all the time, especially when you're a dad. It is so complicated now in the 90s. Now, sure, you know, the human condition is pretty much the same. We all want the same things. The thing that's changed really is the clothing that we wear throughout history. But it is so complicated. I used to commit, you know, petty larceny by stealing a kiss. Now you can kiss and die. That is something to deal with. I think. Number two is the education in this
Or you can
country.
kiss and get married, which is a slower form.
Yeah. Well, but a less painful.
It's a less painful.
A
Well,
less
it
painful form.
depends on who you marry. But I mean, it's
That's
a
true.
slower
I'm lucky.
form of it, yeah.
I'm very lucky. But the idea is that there is a feeling. I also do a show called Sightings, and we deal with futurists on the show who say that there is going to be a tremendous cataclysmic. Mother Nature is going to have a tremendous upheaval. And out of that will come, we will treat each other differently. We will all of a sudden need each other, you know? The country at one time was built on helping your neighbor. Now we put bars on our windows and doors to keep the neighbor out.
Well, we live in cages. If we have enough money, we create elaborate cages
Yes,
for
it's
ourselves.
true.
We live in gated communities.
Yes.
In houses with bars, in
Absolutely.
cars with drivers we know.
Absolutely. And
As
now we're
opposed-
putting in bulletproof windows, at least in my city.
What's the reversal of that? Is there any? I mean,
I don't know, and I think it has to start with the children when they are the youngest, and it cannot be that, just a little while ago, they tried to make ketchup as part of the vegetable group for children's lunches. we have to...
I'd rather eat it than cauliflower, but personally. But
I never thought, or Brussels sprouts.
yeah, Brussels sprouts are bad.
Wow.
Bad taste. Ooh.
Even up with ketchup.
Oh, that's a terrible taste.
But I think we have to start with the youngest child and prenatal care and child care. I think we have to deal with that.
Do you have a problem, when I see you acting in that film, it's pretty clear to me that you've moved far past the sort of sitcom thing and what you do, but I bet people still walk up to you and grab you and see your reruns and say, hey, the
Absolutely,
Fonz
they
on
call me
film."
the Fonz, sure,
Do they?
or hi Fonzie. But I have to tell you something, after everything is said and done, I get much more than I have to give because of that character. He has been the very foundation of my professional life. The warmth alone that I receive walking down the street, you know, your children call you Mr. Stricty, they yell at you, there's a great story.
Hold it, and we'll tell the story. There's a great story coming up right after this break. Sorry, Henry, I had to take a break.
all right.
He's waving at me. Be right. Okay, star of the CBS television movie, A Child is Missing. Actor, producer, director, Henry Winkler. You were starting to tell a story.
No, just about the relationship between being a celebrity, being a parent, you know. I took all three children to a ball game, the Dodger Stadium. Right. And they put my picture up on Diamond Vision. And the entire stadium started to chant my name. Henry, Henry, Fonzie, Fonzie. So my kids then say, they're chanting your name, Dad. They're chanting your name. This is so cool. Now we walk out of the stadium. They were chanting your name. Did you hear them? I said, no, I wasn't there. Unbelievable. Now we're in the car. The 24-year-old is driving. He said, you know, you're going to have to negotiate your way through. Some people will like you because of Dad. Some people will like you because of yourselves. I worked it out. You will too. The big sage. We get home. It takes about 26 minutes to get from Dodger Stadium to the house that we lived in at the time. I walk into the house, walk into my daughter's room. All of her clothing has jumped off the hanger onto the rug. Somehow, miraculously, I said, now, Zoe, we've made a deal. We had a contract. You were going to clean up before we left for the game. She said to me, I will never chant your name. If they knew who you were, they wouldn't whisper your name. I went from a demigod to a bum in 26 minutes. But I mean,
amazing.
It was so incredible to see it happen, to watch it and to hear it. I couldn't believe it. But that keeps you in line.
It keeps you in balance.
It sure does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are any of your kids in the business? Are you going to move them in that direction, or are they going to move themselves?
My eldest stepson is 24 now and works for a management production company, and he just got a promotion. He is on his way to being emperor. My daughter has a beautiful singing voice, but I think eventually will become a lawyer. And my youngest son is, I think, just born to the manner. His hobby, his habit, is movies.
Really?
He knows.
Anybody have your sense of humor?
Well, I think that I don't have a sense of humor, believe it or not. Not at home. I'm actually boringly
You're just like a
non-funny.
schlump. So
I'm a schlump
You're
at
just
home.
hanging around. There.
Yes, my children are a lot funnier than I am. My son, Max, is a card.
Is that right?
Yes, he is.
How have you managed to pull this all together in Hollywood? It's a tough town to keep a family together like that.
I have a powerful wife and the family, it really does keep you in line. You know, if you take the responsibility of being a dad, and believe me, I make my mistakes, I'm sure, and different ones from my parents, you know, because I keep on thinking, I will never do what my parents did. And then all of a sudden you hear their voices come out of your mouth. It's just...
Yeah, I forget. I read something in the paper the other day about, they had a story on Nicole Kidman, and she said she was wild when she was a teenager. Now she's got kids, and the only thing she hasn't said yet is you're grounded.
Yes, right.
You know, she's terribly worried she's going to say that someday. And I guess that's true.
I just did. I just grounded my 12-year-old. He lost his telephone privileges.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He lost it for the entire weekend.
That's almost capital punishment to a teenager.
Yes, it is.
I mean, to a teenager, to shut off the phone services.
Yes, and it was the hormones have just kicked in. So he has just started. You know, he has 45 minutes when after reading, after homework, where he can talk on the phone. and uses every second. You know, when he has to hang up, he talks all the way down to the, you know. So.
That's great. What are you going to do next? You write, you produce, you direct, you act. What do you like best, acting?
Well, I love acting very much, and so I'm looking for a new series to do. So I'm meeting with
You
writers.
want to do a new series?
I want to do a new series,
You're
half an
the
hour
only
comedy.
guy in show business I've ever heard say that. People say to me, either I'd never want to do a series, which means I desperately would like to do a
Sure.
series, but nobody's asked me, or somebody's just come off a 7-year run and says, I'll never do that again because it's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
You're
But
the only guy I've ever heard
it is
say do
an
it.
incredibly wonderful way to make a living. You know, what you just said reminds me when I first graduated from drama school. I came to New York, and I was able to earn my living making commercials. And of course, all the other students that I went with to school, they all said, how can you do that? It goes against my aesthetic grain. We were trained for the theater.
Yeah, right.
And the next question was, so how do you get them? You know?
Right, yeah. And so I always see actors, they come in and they say, I'd never do a commercial.
Sure.
You know, and then I see them with Cheese Whiz about a month later.
Absolutely. And
eating
smeared all over their
putting the
face.
Cheese Whiz in their ear. I mean,
You
they don't
bet.
care. They'll do anything.
You bet.
20 years of Shakespeare training. I once had to do a commercial in politics where I had a guy with hound dogs running through a restaurant, and I hired a Shakespearean actor. He had no idea why he was doing the scene, didn't care. It was, you know, he was making $250.
You bet.
It was there. Are you a person who believes that television is harming children, or do you have a view on that?
I think that watching too much television is harmful. I think that there is, as there has always been, there is good television and there is crummy television.
Do you restrict it in your home or no?
Yes, we do. Well, the kids also self-restrict. I mean, they won't watch the news. Or they won't watch the news at night because it is so violent, it is so negative, it is too scary to watch before they go to bed. There are movies that the children cannot watch. But they're pretty good on their own. When you use television as a babysitter, I think it becomes very harmful. And sometimes I wonder about the proliferation of those talk shows in the afternoon. It's almost as if it's the electronic Christians and Lions.
It's one of the reasons we created this network, America's Talking, because it's non-dysfunctional talk. It's our theory that if people like you show up and talk about intelligent things and interesting things, people will watch. So I'm happy you're here on America's Talking. We'll be back with Henry Winkler. We'll be right back after these messages.
So what's the matter? Ever since we started this, I have been ill. I have headaches, stomach aches. I get the chills. My gums are bleeding, and my hair keeps falling out into the sink. So?
Bill, let me try to explain this to you. As we sit here and idly chat, there are women, female human beings, rolling around in strange beds with strange men, and we are making money from that.
Is this a great country or what?
That was Michael's first film.
Is that right?
Yeah. Michael Keaton's first film.
I'll be darned. What about sightings? You're doing sightings?
The study of all things paranormal. We just started our 4th year. And we are very proud. It's like the little engine that could, you know. And I'm fascinated by the material.
Is it mental telepathy or
It is everything.
extraterrestrial sightings?
It is
Do you
everything.
believe in these, like the flying saucers and stuff, or do you have an opinion yet?
I think that the universe is so vast and so endless, it's hubris to think that we are the only living forms around. I don't know if there is anything out there, but I do believe that there is a great possibility that there is something, somebody other than the human being on Earth.
By the way, you talked about being dyslexic, not doing well in school, but you graduated from Emerson
Yes, I
College.
did.
Chet Collier, who's the executive producer of this network, is a big Emerson guy, so I told him
All
I'd
right.
mention Emerson College. But you also went to Yale Drama,
Yes,
Masters.
I have a
and
master's degree.
Masters. So, I mean, he didn't like a dope, so he didn't just believe in this stuff and never read a book or anything. I don't want to get that impression. I read something about your background, maybe a little tough to talk about, but the fact that your family in Germany, your parents escaped the Holocaust.
Yes, they did.
But their parents didn't make it.
No. As a matter of fact, I never had grandparents and very few real aunts and uncles. I have a wonderful uncle and aunt who escaped from Hungary in '56 during that revolution. But except for my parents, my dad packed to go on one trip to New York with my mom. And he kept packing clothing for all seasons. And my mom kept saying, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Well, you never know. In New York, the weather changes just like that." Because he knew he could never go back again. Wow. So my entire family, except for my parents, were taken to the camps.
I don't think we in this country have an appreciation for how that is to destroy families like that. I mean, I know we have some horrible situations in this country and people grow up poor and we have some tough situations, but
Yes.
I don't think anything's as tough as that. I mean, seeing a family, a normal family, and one day you have to go off to a camp and be murdered. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know that, I mean, you know, presumably we'll never see that in our lifetime, but I sometimes think we had it pretty easy in this country. Do you have that feeling?
I feel that for a long time we have had it very easy. And I think that now it is becoming more difficult and more difficult for just the average American to get by, you know. I think that we have to work on family in this country because gangs have replaced family in this country. You know, and if we want to get out from under this violent blanket that is suffocating us, we have to look into family in this country.
What's the answer to that, though? How do you do that for kids? And I've talked to a lot of scholars, black, white, and talk about this problem of the underclass and the people in poverty in the inner cities, for instance. Is there an answer to it? I mean, is there anything? Government has tried to do it since 1964, the war on poverty, and
Right.
has failed.
Right.
I mean, we've declared war and we lost.
We have declared war and we lost. And I think that it has to start, we mentioned it before, I think that all of the cutbacks that are now being looked at, I think that to take the food out of the breakfast program, where this is a place where the children eat only once a day, at breakfast at school, and now that's being cut. There is no real daycare. There is no prenatal care. We spend so much money after the child is born taking care of them. We could spend so much less if we only protected them and helped them at the beginning. You know.
So if you were president, you would reprioritize
the spending of dollars.
yeah.
I would start with the baby in the womb. That's where I would start. Yes, children remember who is kind to them.
Right, that is true. That is true. Would you be willing to cut back welfare programs for adults? Because at some point there's only so much money. I don't know.
I think that, yes, we all have to tighten our belts. We all have to tighten our belts, no matter what category in society we live. We have to take care of ourselves. And we have to take care of our country. If we are willing to me there are three major areas. The planet, the house we live in, the people who live in the house with us, and the future of that house. And if we have any shot at a future, we have to start very young. The future of our community, of our country, rests in very little hands.
How much confidence do you have in government to be the parent, or do you say that adults who have something should be the parents of kids they don't even know? You adopted a child.
You know what? I think for sure that we as a community, and when I mean as a country, what you just said is a very powerful concept. We as individuals can take on one other individual, just one.
And we could solve a lot of the problems.
And we could solve a lot of problems. We as a country can parent each other, can nurture each other, and we would solve a lot of. Right now, we are so fractioned off that, you know, as we said before, I mean, I take care of myself, and I have to watch out for the other guy, because it's now defensive living as opposed to just living.
You and I come at politics probably from different positions, but I have great doubt about the federal government being a parent for anybody. I think individuals
They can't
have
be
to
the
take
parent for
responsibility.
themselves.
They can't even get their act right. They can't
Right.
even collect taxes and get everybody. They can't
Right.
even, you know, I mean, we run wars reasonably well and build roads, but we're not real good with the personal things. But at any rate, I really
It's a
think
sad
that
comment.
individuals have to contribute to each other in this life, and I'm glad to see, even though we come at things differently, we agree on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Henry, real pleasure. Say hello to your wife for me, and
promise.
tell her and thank her for sending you, because she told me, she said, Henry will show up someday, you'll see, and he has. Okay, when we come